there, and welcome to the NCMU podcast, where we are dedicated to raising up and equipping the next generation of nerd culture missionaries. My name is Bubba, one of the hosts here. Mark is away doing 100 other things this week, but today I am joined with my good friend, Jon W. Rush.
What's up, everybody? What's up, nerds?
What's going on, man?
What's that from, dude? I feel like it's from Parks and Rec or something. What's up, nerds?
What's up, nerds? I say it all the time. Yeah, so maybe you just think I'm super cool and you just want to quote me.
Yeah, probably. I'm quoting Bubba.
Yeah, maybe. Well, hey, I'm here with Jon Rush of Elevation Church. Maybe you've heard of it, kind of a big deal in the church world. And as we start to get into this, the reason we want to have Rush on is because, man, you're doing so much stuff in the space. We're going to talk a little bit about the, Elevation Youth Nation gaming, and all that stuff. But before we get too far into that, explain to our listeners and our viewers what in the world a gaming pastor is, because that's what your title is, or at least part of it.
Yeah, that's what I put in my my Twitter or my X bio, because it just makes sense. I think in the HR files it says like esports director, but part of that is because like everything here is E, so it's like E groups, E kids, and so I think that's part of it. But I would offend any real esports professionals in that gaming is more my forte in content. I don't claim to know how to. The only thing esports that I can really do these days is I can cast the heck out of a tournament. Other than that,
can, dude.
I can't play. Couldn't coach in most games. I could be a great motivational coach. Does any esports teams need that? I can help.
Yeah, they need galvanizers. You're a galvanizer.
I can do that.
Hype guy.
But honestly, that is I like to say like my day job at the church is because even in large churches, man, everyone's got wears multiple hats in ministry. It's just how ministry is. And so my primary responsibilities are being one of the pastors at our broadcast location. And so I oversee our youth ministry there, as well as our spiritual development, our small group structure there. That's our Ballantyne campus. So if you're normally, that's the one that people visit. So if you are visiting in South Charlotte, our Ballantyne campus, come see me, say what's up. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and that's real talk, because some of our guys went out there and they got to do just that. They hung out with you a little bit. That's right.
Gave them the tour at a Midwood barbecue. Love it.
Ooh, I don't know what that is, but man, from Texas, I like the word barbecue.
Yeah, it's like Carolina. Like the only distinct food that Carolina really has that I've discovered is barbecue. But I don't know that it's as good as Texas. My favorite barbecue is Alabama, actually.
Alabama? Is Alabama like a vinegar based?
No, theirs is like a white barbecue sauce.
I don't even know what
peppered.
that means.
It's very, very
gravy?
good.
You trying to say gravy?
It kind of looks like that, but it is fire. But yeah, come see us for real.
Hey, Rush, before we kind of get into it, we like to talk about what was your calling like? How did you get into ministry? All that stuff. We're just going to start with the understanding that you're already there. You're in ministry. It's happening. You're doing it. And you're at Elevation. Now, how did you get from where you were before to actually being at Elevation, which massive church, like worldwide recognition, music, Pastor Stephen Furtick, like Elevation is a name, and for some people, it's a mountain to be climbed. Like, how did you find yourself at Elevation?
Yeah, the way I found myself there is not trying to get here. I just think that I think my whole life, every opportunity that I've ever had in life that has been momentous or felt on a bucket list or even now has come from an overflow of just being faithful with the last thing God asked me to do. And I think there's a difference between self-sabotage. Like for instance, when I was first reached out to by Elevation to come on staff, I said no. Not a lot of people know that because my wife and I
didn't know that.
Yeah, we were on staff at a church. My wife and I had met, and I've been leading a youth ministry in Rockford, Illinois, a place near and dear to our heart. Our first daughter was born there. We have a lot of great friends there. I mean, you're talking a decade in ministry. I'm starting to hire some of my youth kids. Like that's the sweet spot, man. It's so cool, and we were in so many schools, and even with esports, Illinois was one of the first states to really catch esports, because Robert Morris University, which is a college there, was one of I think is there the second in the nation to adopt an esports program. And so a teacher at the public school right across the street from the church, like you could hit it with the rock, Jeff Pittner, he's still doing it. I should text him. He got a grant approved by the school district for like $100K, and they became the first varsity esports league team in our city, and one of the first in Illinois, probably one of the first in the nation. So anyway, we loved it there. So yeah, I mean, I think you don't have to self-sabotage yourself, but God, I think, is looking for people who are stewarding what they had. And even in the parable of the talents, Jesus says, to whom much has been given, even more will be given. And so I think that's just what we've tried to do. One of my good mentors, Nick Nielsen, he told me, he said, everything good in life and in ministry, God will bring it to you. So don't worry about chasing it, you know? And even like, I've watched how certain like relationships, I look up to that person. Over the years, God just brings me in the room and I'm just their friend. And it's such a better story when God does it versus when you go out of your way to try to, because a lot of times, especially if it's a person of influence, they don't like being rolled up on, most stories, and we got here in January of 2020, and I've been listening to Pastor Stephen preach since I was 17, and he was one of the first YouTube pastors that I found. And so, I mean, it's just been the honor of a lifetime to get to be a part of the team here. It's been very fun.
So what has that been like? Kind of, moving from Illinois, to, a massive youth group to now they're bringing you in to do a pretty specific thing. Like this is a real, like Jason Bourne kind of thing. Like, hey man, we need a real specific, like a real, like Taken, Liam Neeson kind of a moment, right? We need a special set of skills for them to say, hey, so gaming, like what, did they have an idea when you came in, or did you come with fresh ideas, or what did that look like?
No. So I just moved there to be our broadcast location youth pastor and help lead and develop some of the youth directors on the team at the various campuses. But we got there in January 2020. So if anyone's, I don't want to bring anyone back to trauma, but a couple months after January in the year of 2020, a lot went down in the world, shutdowns and all these things. And so essentially, most churches in America, we were asking ourselves, man, how do we stay connected with people when we can't meet them physically? And everyone was kind of like rewriting their job descriptions. It was so funny. It was like everyone was being conscripted into the digital army. Like campus pastors were being taught Facebook. Like it was hilarious. It's like worship leaders were like, hey, this is how you create a community group on Facebook, and here's how you manage. It's so cool, and like our church, it was awesome, But our pastor was like, hey, like we will keep doing ministry and we will stay in people's lives. We will not let physical presence stop us. And so I used that opportunity to raise my hand in a room and say, what if we streamed on Twitch? Could we, and honestly, the main idea was, we were just trying to think, man, how can we, someone had said in a meeting, how can we help give students a sense of normalcy in this crazy time? And, even sports were shut down, remember this is before the NBA bubble, and I go, oh my gosh, guys, I know how we can bring sports back. And they're like, what are you talking about? I go, guys, let's do a 2K tournament. And I'm not even a 2K guy. I don't play sports games at all. I watch some sports, but if I'm going to play a game, I'm going to do something I can't do in real life. I don't that's a whole rant. I'm just like, I don't understand why you would play a game where you could I want to be a wizard. I want to be an orc. I want to be a sniper, like things I cannot do. So, I guess not that I can play like a professional basketball player, but you get it. And so anyway, so our first,
you're not playing like Pastor Simulator online. Yeah, it's not happening.
So our first event, our first Twitch stream was a 2K bracket that we did. And we said, hey, whether you play 2K or you just want to watch some basketball, we're having different kids from different campuses play each other. And and we can talk, I'd love to tell all the ups and downs, hills and valleys, but the short story is that even beyond the world event that happened, I just never know which platforms still like punish people for saying the words. Like I'm not personally afraid to talk about any of that stuff. I just everyone knows. The world event happened. We saw that gaming was a viable form of ministry, and we're continuing it to this day. So kind of trial by fire. And I think a lot of times we pray for new opportunities, but oftentimes God gives us new opportunities in the form of a new way to serve people and a problem to be solved, and often in a really inconvenient time of our life. And so I think that's kind of like the mini story. So that's why, like, even to this day, like, we don't have any full-time staff yet, but we're able to have someone part-time helping with stuff. And then it's still very volunteer, grassroots. And even like, it's my passion project at work, but no one at work wants to like shut it down because they're like, this is doing stuff, So yeah, it's exciting. It's cool.
Dude, that's fantastic. And I've been a part of some of the live streams that you guys have done, and it's a sight to behold. So if you guys get a chance, we'll have all the show notes, or all the information in the show notes. Go check them out. If you're trying to learn how to do stuff, how to communicate and connect with maybe a younger audience, but maybe even an older audience, it doesn't matter. If you want to use gaming as a way to connect with people, I mean, Youth Nation Gaming is a great way to do that. Dude, like before we started rolling, this is what my YouTube stuff looks like. I'm watching Mortal Kombat tournaments. I'm watching, like, MK1 is big right now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to kind of figure out if it's anything that I even want to dip my toe into with all the cameos and other characters popping in. I like watching Street Fighter stuff. I've been watching that forever. Like a lot of fighting games, but I'll sit and I'll watch Madden tournaments. I'll watch 2K tournaments. I'll watch, I was watching MLB and FIFA for a while. A lot of the sports-based games, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They draw people in from all over the world in different corners of the map in this digital universe that we live in to say, hey, do you want to play?
Yep. Yeah.
And so if anybody's interested, go check them out and figure that out. Hey, you actually did a tournament.
Yeah.
I think it was a Fortnite tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong. At camp, in front of the entire camp this past year, and it freaking rocked it.
Yeah, that definitely...
Talk about that for a little bit.
That definitely is one of my favorite things that we've done, and I show a lot when I speak. I get to, it's honestly like the idea of digital methods of ministry, specifically in youth ministries, youth and young adult ministries, and gaming is, I get asked to speak about it a lot now, and that's one of the things that I show at these churches. Essentially, we just took the same format of camp games, red team, blue team, green team, and and instead of throwing water balloons in a field, we had Fortnite and Fall Guys, and it was on the big screen and the big stage, and 3,000 people. And what was so cool is, I'm going to say something and then I'm going to walk it back on purpose, because I'm going to reveal some thinking I think that even us gamers, even us nerds, allow in our minds, that I think is a limiting factor, but is actually a path to our potential and purpose. Even non-gamers came up to me afterwards and said that was the best part of the camp games. That was the most entertaining thing we've done. And you can go back and watch the footage. I posted some of it on my Instagram and my Twitter.
Yeah.
The whole crowd is freaking out. And I don't know if these kids play Fortnite. I don't know if these kids play Fall Guys. But the thing about esports and gaming is they're designed, especially now, for spectator sports. So, and you got up there, especially for Fall Guys, so our strategy was for Fortnite. We're like, hey, which campuses have who are your most cracked kids? And they were box fighting as crazy. It's really high skill cap. But then we flipped the narrative with Fall Guys, saying anyone can play Fall Guys. And so we let kids who maybe don't feel like they're pros or anything get a chance to play in like an esports environment. Their team's cheering them on. But then we also threw some of the youth pastors up there, and kids were going nuts watching their youth pastors fail at Fall Guys. I mean, there was one time where, like, if you watch Fall Guys, like, you know how funny it is. And I don't play that game, by the way. Like, I barely even play Fortnite anymore. I'm playing it now because as of this recording, they just re-released OG. And I know those guns. I'm going to show them who dad is, okay?
Season 1's back, baby.
I'm going to show them. We dropping Tilted Towers, okay? Straight out of Tilted,
If that doesn't take you back, it ain't for you. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. But there was sometimes where, like, like one of the like second, third, and fourth kept getting knocked off the map at the final like obstacle in Fall Guys for like legit 5 minutes. It was hilarious. The crowd was going crazy. So the thing I'm going to walk back is saying non-gamers. The reality is statistically, most of America, 71% and up are gamers of some ilk. And so even if they're not Fortnite players, even if they're not Fall Guys players, they will appreciate the medium. And so what I found is like, why did it hit the crowd that way? Not only are games designed for spectators of mine from Twitch and Twitch streamers and other streamers and esports, but because everyone understands it, like they go, oh yeah, I might not play Fortnite, but I play Mortal Kombat, and I get that. I get the idea. And so I just think gaming is one of the great equalizers in culture right now, and more people game. I mean, this morning I'm playing the new Fortnite update, OG Fortnite. My first game in, I see Bonus Boy 5771 join my party. I haven't logged into Fortnite in years. I've casted a bunch of tournaments, but I haven't played it. And I go, who is this guy? And I'm like, it's probably one of my youth students, so I'm not going to kick them out, but I'm also not going to turn on voice chat because I'm trying to just play Fortnite. So we go into duos, and we're really gelling. And then this person kind of like carries me a little bit. And I'm like, then we get a win. And then I get a text from my boss at church, my campus pastor, JJ, who is not someone who streams or you would ever think of as a gamer. He plays Fortnite. And so it's just like, I really think the opportunity with gaming is that the term nerd even, I mean, that's all of us, man. Really is. Like, we're just in a golden age of like, I remember when you did get picked on for being a nerd. But now everyone is a nerd, And so I think that's why we're seeing such a mass appeal with gaming, because really in some form or fashion, everyone does it.
Dude, our retirement homes are going to be absolute bangers only, man. It's just like Fortnite tournaments and, Call of Duty. It's just going to be LAN party everywhere.
They need to rewrite Ready Player One from the perspective of the elderly, because I think that's what it's going to be. The elderly who can't move in real life, they're caught up in, they can't go anywhere else. But when the technology of Ready Player One, and I encourage everyone, if you haven't read the book Ready Player One, it's so much more expressive and expansive than even the movie. For real.
I'm not that guy, right? Yeah. My wife is that guy. I'm not that guy that says, well, but the book was better. The book was better.
Yeah, Ready Player One book was crazy.
Fire. Yeah. Absolute great. Well, hey man, we like to talk a little bit about how you got into just ministry in general. A lot of people struggle with, is God calling me into this? Is he speaking to me? Is it just something that I'm kind of thinking about? Or like, so talk a little bit about Jon Rush and his calling into ministry. However beautiful, or in my case, I stumbled into it. Like, God put me basically in a spot and said, ministry, right? Yeah. Yeah. You get it now? Do you understand? So let's hear a little bit about your call. How did Jon Rush get into ministry?
Well, I think the older I get, the more I really feel God really just reminding me of my, as a vocational pastor, which is my form of ministry and calling, just my Ephesians 4 mandate of equipping the saints to do ministry. And I think that pastoral positions are a unique reality, even biblically and just practically, right? But ministry is for everyone. And in fact, there's a lot of ministry that will not happen if it's restricted to the church. And I think that we've adopted a model of church in the last 20, 30 years in America, at least, that is very much so about like, hey, come here. And when the Bible is more of a gospel of, hey, go there. And I think it's great when people come to church. I think it's great when people come to church and they get saved, but I really dream of a day, Bubba, where people are showing up to church already having been led to the Lord. Like, imagine if the Sunday starts that way. It's not after the service, it's the start of the service. What if your VIP tent, your connection area, people are, before worship even starts, 15 people show up because various members of your church led them to Christ that week. And whether that was because they met them that day or because they've been building a relationship for years. And I really think that I want to encourage every business leader and creative and streamer and bivocational person, mom, dad, you have a ministry calling on your life. And I think that Sometimes I've seen, Bubba, people go into vocational ministry or missions thinking that that's the only way to do it. Even like, I'm not a huge fan of the whole like old summer camp thing. Like, this is what I saw a lot of summer camps used to do. Who is called to ministry? Come to the front. And like 800 kids. But it's like, no, we don't, in that room are not 800 pastors, but in that room are 800 representatives of Jesus Christ. And we need, one of my best friends and people that I game with the most, his name is Bruce. And we also game with his wife, Lori. They're almost 60. They were, I was their kid's youth pastor from the time their son was in 6th grade to 12th grade. Then I was in his wedding. Now he's married with a kid. But Bruce and Lori are old school gamers. They are Quake gamers. They are like,
oh my gosh,
fly in your friends from the forums to a hotel LAN party. Gamers, gamers, And I mean, Bruce works in he works in construction, and he has. And I mean, that dude shares Jesus with people that I never will ever meet and might not ever come to a church. And so I think that's sorry, I didn't really answer the question.
I mean, I love it when people answer questions like that, because this is how I answer questions. There's a lot of things to say in order to get to the actual answer. So man, go ahead, bro. Like keep going.
Yeah. And so I just think, a guy that was one of the pastors that taught me, he said, the way you're called to vocational ministry, meaning working at a church or being a missionary, like like that kind, is he goes, if you could do anything else with your life and be fulfilled, do that. And just so far in my life, I just have felt, and even when I gave my life to the Lord at 16, building the local church is all I've ever done. And I've been a part of small churches. I've been a part of 3 churches in my life. The church I got saved at, the church where I got trained up at, then my first job, and I met my wife in Rockford, and then Elevation. And all 3 of them are very different. Our first church was very small, and we did setup and tear down every week. But even our second church was very large, and we did a lot of setup and tear down, so it's just, and Elevation's even larger, and we just do set up a lot of tear down, So I just think it is a very pastoral ministry, is a very specific calling. The reality is I went into it because when I was 18, I was not going to go to college because I hated school, and I knew I'd waste my mom's money. I had a full ride to UCF because Florida had like a great state tuition thing. It's not because I was smart, but I'm like, I just knew, I'm like, I am about to squander my mother's money, and I'm going to waste everyone's time. But then I was thinking about going into the military, because I'm like, at least I can get jacked and like, I'll have life skills, And the only other thing I would have done is try to pursue, from the time I was really since I was 12, I was playing in some variation of competitive gaming. My first game that I competed in, on a competitive level was when I was 10, and it was called wasn't Age of Empires. Why am I Empire Earth 2, Age of Conquest.
Empire Earth. Yeah, boy.
I'll never forget when I tried out for the best clan in the game, LM, Legalized Murder, as a 10-year-old. And I just absolutely wiped the guy off. And I go, hey, I was like, when am I going to play someone? Just as a 10-year-old, I remember typing, when am I going to play someone from your clan? Because I really do want to try out. Who was that guy? And they go, that was our clan leader. And so then, in high school especially, my dream to become a professional Halo player was really the focus of my high school time. The reality is in 2009, here's my Uncle Rico story. In 2009, MLG National Championships in Orlando, Florida, we placed like 62nd. And so there just wasn't a social media infrastructure, Bubba. There wasn't other ways there wasn't college stuff. Like it was such a risk that we could ever, like we were basically having to scrape together all of our money just to play in these tournaments, let alone try to live off of it. And so when my youth pastor said, hey, I think you have ministry call in your life. And then I started working at a church for $50 an hour, or $50, not an hour, a week. Sorry, a week.
Yeah.
I did that for 4 years.
Dude, you're rolling, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. They hiring? Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, kind of like you, like in some ways it was the only option that really made sense. But I've watched how by following that call to ministry, God's brought all my passions into the calling of ministry.
Yeah. And I have watched that just in the short time that you and I have actually gotten to know each other, which is basically in the last year. All right. 12 months almost to the T here. I've gotten to know you, and man, I've fallen in love with, just you as a friend and kind of the stuff that you guys are doing over there with Elevation, and also some of the guys that just are in your really tight sphere. I've gotten to know Preacher Guy because of your connection.
We're going to talk about him on the podcast.
I'm just saying I got to know him. Yeah. I don't want to say his name 3 times and then I got to pay him to be here. Got to get his rider going.
Dumpstered.
Got him.
Dumpster.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that in too. I think that's perfect.
You have to, dude. I'm gonna post this clip when we.
Oh man, it's gonna be so good because he's not gonna hear this until well after Nerd Culture Ministry Summit.
Oh my,
it's gonna be so good.
It's so good.
Hey, love you, Grant. But I mean, I've gotten to really get to know some of the people that are in your circle and kind of see how you guys operate and the things that you guys do and say. And I'm gonna be real, man. Like it's impressive. It's a big stuff, right? We're not talking just moving chairs, for the potluck at the end of service. I mean, we're talking paving pathways for myself, for other people that are coming, behind, or even people that are ahead of you, but that aren't known and can't get to the spaces that you guys are already finding yourselves in. This is what you guys are doing is really helping. Like it's putting it on the map. It's making it more accessible so that when we do things like the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit, and at the time of this recording, it hasn't happened yet, but when you hear it, it has happened yet. And so those things are able to happen, and people are bringing us in to speak and learning about how they can reach and better love and serve the nerds that are directly in their spaces, because large organizations, I'm a big fan of large organizations. I think big organizations do big things, right?
Yeah.
And so large organizations setting out and saying, hey, yeah, I mean, we're going to put gaming pastor on your title list here because we want people to know that that's an important thing. And so, man, are you guys, I know you're working through some stuff, dreaming big and doing vision casting and stuff with your team. Are there things that you guys are starting to forecast, maybe for the rest of 2023 and starting in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, our whole journey has been just a trial and error. And, our pastor, he's very aware, burdened by the idea that people would get the message from our church that we have it all together and they just do what we do. And so he's very much coaches us to doesn't want us to act like we know, like, hey, if we're good at something, we'll tell you, hey, worship, we there's an anointing and a precision in how we do worship that is just real, but even within the thing that we're so good at, there's, man, if you knew behind the scenes, the ups and downs, and, it's just so funny, and so even we had a conference that we did for a few years called Inside Elevation, and our pastor paused it, stopped it. Might not ever happen again, because he said, I think we're selling the wrong thing. He said, I think we're bringing people in here and we're giving them our best foot forward, and they're leaving here wanting to purchase orange tents and ask what guitar Chris Brown uses. And he's like, that's not, he's like, I want people to see the heart of what we do so they can, they can go put the flesh and bones in their expression. We want to inspire people to go be their best version, so just in that spirit, transparently, we've had a lot of wins, we've had a lot of losses, and, it's a humbling thing to be like, man, did I just make our church look bad doing that? Did we waste money? Was it a good spend? What, and one of the things our pastor says too, is he says the price of experimentation is increased accountability. So at our church, you can kind of do anything you want. You just got to prove the concept, and you're not going to start it by getting $100K budget and a bunch of posts from the social media accounts of the church. It's gonna be like, hey, what can you build on the ground? And then there's just the wisdom of just going like, hey, let's not shine a light on something, And so even I've not in anything we've done. So what is this? Almost 2024. Wow. 4 years we've been doing this. I've not ever really asked for the full weight of the church's marketing or attention for anything gaming related, because I just don't think we're ready. Because what if, sometimes we're so worried about what if no one shows up, but I'm like, man, what if more people show up than we can handle? And
that's what terrifies me all the time.
Yeah.
What if it works?
Yeah. Cause you can get numbers, you can get people. And I mean, just think about it. Like, how many churches do great on Easter?
Yeah.
What happens next? And I think we can, even in church world, get addicted to the peaks, and live mountaintop to mountaintop without ever answering to God for what we did in between. And I've just done this too long to care about big events anymore. Like, I've just done this too long to give a rip if we have some cool posts. I want to make this thing last. I want this to be real in students' lives. And so, even one example, one of my good friends in the industry, his name is Monster D-Face, Javier Colazo, just started a new coffee for gamers brand. He's really trying to educate people to get them off energy drinks and the powdered drinks with bad stuff. And so Cafe Colazo, here, free ad, Bubba. But
Cafe Colazo.
Yeah, it's great coffee. I just drank it this morning, but I love the mission because he's like, hey, these kids are literally being like ripped by, some of these energy drink brands, or they should at least know about like a natural source of caffeine. So yeah. But he's one of the main personalities for Fortnite. He gets flown out to, Europe when they do the World Cup. He was at the World Cup. He, great guy, but he also has an esports production company. They're who I do all my work with whenever I'm doing a large event. But man, I was like, hey, we have a big budget. We're gonna invest in 5 weeks of 5 weeks in a row of $1,000 Fortnite tournaments. And man, we saw in those 5 weeks, we were averaging 225 CCV on Twitch, which for us was huge. And for like our gaming stuff.
Yeah, man.
And we saw it was just under 2,200 students join our Discord. It was
that's crazy.
It was revival until it wasn't. And and you just, so I think we just know that, like, we know we can flip a switch and get a bunch of eyeballs and do it. The question is, can we build a foundation that lasts, and can we build a system that actually makes sense? And there are some things that don't make sense for a church to do with gaming, like even now, I'm like, we don't need a streamer. That's how I kind of started it. Me and my buddy Leighton were both of us streaming 40 hours a week. And we're doing the path to partner, but it's like, there's other people doing that, So I think it's in anything, asking the question, what is it that only we can do to reach the people that we have been called to reach? What's the service we can provide? So we've shifted our focus more to how do we develop the next generation of streamers for God. We have 12 students in our student leadership program that we're developing to be either front-facing influencers or behind the scenes. And I think there's a lot of great things God is doing in the nerd culture space, but I don't think there's enough discussion about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And I certainly don't see many people discipling people. And I think that we can get very caught up in our like chest bump some bros vibe. And I go, but what about the teenagers? What about who's up next? And this is what Jesus was an expert at, is seeing the young people and raising up the next generation. And I always love thinking about how, everyone always kind of maximizes on Jesus. At the end of his ministry, he only had 12, and really it was only 11 because Judas left, and then a couple of women, and Thomas didn't even believe. And I think sometimes we use that dip in that cleansing moment of Jesus' ministry to make us feel bad when we've been unsuccessful for a couple of years, and we over spiritualize our failure. But what Jesus did leave when he ascended was he went from 12 disciples to 120 in the upper room. And I just think that too much we focus on the 3,000, trying to get the 3,000 from Pentecost instead of trying to build the infrastructure, 120, to facilitate the growth of Pentecost. And I think this is even practical for streamers. I get on guys all the time. I get on Preacher Guy, dude. I'm going to put you on Front Street, Grant. Why is Mr. Beast successful? Because he built a team. If you analyze all of Mr. Beast's creative process, he never did it alone. He always was with people. He was always operating with a team mentality. And still to this day, like, think about it. The biggest YouTuber in the world always has guys with him. No one else does. Everyone else is like everyone else is like this solo act, and they wonder why they can never get to it. And I think that you've got to build an infrastructure. Someone who I think does this well is Cross the Crown. Shout out my boy Chris. is you hear him talk like this. He's got his editing group and these buddies and,
Yep.
and his guys and, and it's part discipleship, it's part management. And so I think what we're working on is, man, how do we really build the disciples of this thing? Because the strategies will come. The strategy is easy. You can get money, you can get the things like all that. That is not the hard part. The hard part is, can you build a squad, a foundation, a team that lasts and can really run the race and run the distance. So we've had to scale back on some tournaments and streams and that stuff is not fun because it feels like failure. But I think what I've been framing it as is it's a tactical retreat. And a lot of times, if Napoleon would have taken a couple tactical retreats in the Battle of Waterloo, he wouldn't have lost his empire. But sometimes
been a little bit different, yeah.
Sometimes leaders only know how to press go. Same with content creators. And so that's kind of like what we're looking at in the future is, man, like schools is a big deal, raising up the next generation of streamers. I mean, there's more varsity esports athletes in America right now than there are lacrosse players. And so
what a weird statistic.
Schools are blowing up. And the reason why that statistic is used is because lacrosse in the athletic department system would be considered an emerging sport. It's like the emerging sport.
Sure.
Rugby's not there. Golf is kind of in the background, but lacrosse is like, hey, this is a new sport coming onto the scene.
Yeah.
And in a few short years, esports has outpaced it in a big way. So,
and we'll continue to.
And we'll continue to in colleges. And so, yeah, schools raising up the next generation of streamers and then just supporting our local campuses, instead of trying to be these big famous streamers. We're in a mode right now. I don't know if my team would like them saying this. We're in a mode right now, Bubba, where we go, do we even need to stream? I think we let the method get in the way of the mission all the time in ministry.
Yeah.
And I just go, man, the method, we do not marry methods. We marry the mission. And so those are some of the things we're anchoring into.
Man, I really love that. I'm constantly preaching to people. I feel like we'll get into conversations and it always ends up into some sort of leadership tactic. And I'm like, well, okay, who are you doing it with? Who's helping you? Who do you have around you that's better than you, right? Like that's the best leaders are leaders of leaders, not managers of people. They're creating, they're discipling, they're doing the things that rabbis do, and that is making little versions of themselves like Jesus did. He made little versions of himself in all of us. And so
there's no way
I got books, man.
There's no way
all of
that a content creator will ever be able to scale by themselves. And a lot of content creators are waiting for enough money to hire the right people, but no business, no band, no church had the money to hire the people. They had a compelling vision and a compelling mission that drew people in, that had the guts to ask people to do some things for free for a little bit. And this is not a message saying don't pay your editors,
Nope.
Not. It's just saying the right people, if they see the right vision, will invest in you, and you can't do it all. You just can't. And especially with the reality that most creators are on some level trying to shift from part-time streaming to full-time streaming.
Yeah.
You got to build a team. And you like, I can tell a lot by how a streamer is going to grow by what their mods do. I can tell a lot by a streamer how they're going to grow if they feel like they have to do everything. Here's the fallacy of doing everything, Bubba. We're so finite, we will forget. And answering yourself this question, Craig Rochelle says, if someone can do something 60% as good as you can, have them do it. And creators are the worst at this because, Bubba, they're like, no, but I'm the one that has to, man. I'm like, listen, dude, you're
preaching to the choir, bro.
Yeah. You're one perfect TikTok. That's not what's going to win. It's your 7 consistent TikToks this week that's going to build your community. So you're stuck on last week's TikTok because you can't get the sound right when you could have had somebody at least automate the thumbnail. So ask yourself, I would just encourage, any aspiring content creator, ask yourself, what am I doing that someone else could do? What things could I automate? And really ask yourself, what's the secret sauce? What's the thing that only I can do? Because I know it's weird talking about a leadership principle in the form of content creators, Bubba, but I think you'd agree with me.
It shouldn't be.
That's what's stopping a lot of people. They're exhausted.
Bro, we got to normalize it. And I mean, like this bleeds over. This is all principle-based stuff. So, friends, if you're not a live streamer, you're not a content creator, but you're a pastor at a church, or, you are a leader in your youth group, or whatever you're doing, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong, because that is not how Jesus did it, period. End of story, full stop. And so finding people to come alongside of you, like we said, that are better than you, or 60%, right? Like if you find people that catch the vision, you can get them locked in. You can turn that 60 into 70, 70 into 80, 80 into 90, 90 into 120. And now they're doing things better than you ever thought they could. But the trick is being willing to humble yourself in some way, shape, or form to say, I can't do it all myself. Because your success, this is just across the board. Your success is linked to your sustainability. Like if you can't do it, you can't grow. And I see this time and time again where people are like, oh man, if I get another video out, or I can't do this, or, even we've run into it at Love Thy Nerd. It's like, man, we just can't get enough of these things. And it's like, well, yeah, because we need a team of editors. We have 8 podcasts on our network. One person can't edit all those, not well anyway. And so bringing people in also doesn't just help you. It also gives that person legitimate, tangible buy-in and value in what it is that you're doing. And they're not just this onlooker. So, man, I stand and applaud what you guys are doing.
And I think, a lot of times, we're like, okay, when I get the money from an investor, from a brand, whatever we think the magical money is going to come from. Well, let me tell you, if somebody who has money asks you, hey, what do you got going? And you just go, yeah, it's me and I'm trying to, they go, I'm not giving that guy money.
No, it is a waste of money.
But when you show a plan and goes, yeah, I got 3 guys right now, hey, I pay them 10% of my subs whenever my subs hit above 300, because at that point it's beyond my wife and I's or my partner and I means of living. And so I'm not able to pay them what I want, but they're really good. He edits for this guy and I love his style over here. And I've got him committed for another 2 months under this deal. And, I'm using these cameras right now, which are fine. But if I was able to upgrade to these, not only would it make my stream look better, but it'd be easier for me to do our IRL content. And here's the list. And really, I'm just looking at my next phase. I need a $10,000 cash infusion with somebody that can help me go to the next level so I can hire these people and make this equipment. And then that will help me work my way up to my own next level. It's like no streamer talks like that. And maybe that's because they are more of an entertainer and a creator. And I think that's one big thing is like, you got to know what you are and know what you're not. I think this is something that I feel like you and I can relate on, Bubba, that I've seen as a likeness. It's like, yeah, put me on camera, whatever. Like I'll go on camera, but I think I'm best behind the scenes. I'm not your entertainer guy. I'm not Mr. B. I'm coach. I'm leader. I'm CE. I'm COO. I'm CEO. I'm that. And I think that these creators are more like artists, which is fine. But artists, you need a manager, right? Like you need a manager. Yeah. And so I just think we got to normalize these conversations. And I really think the one person that applies what we just said, Bubba, will be the next person to break 70 CCV on whatever they stream on. I promise you.
Which, CCV, for those of you guys that aren't, hip to the terms, that's your concurrent viewers, right? How many people are watching you at one particular point? And 70 may seem like a pretty low number, but for whatever reason, I think there are a myriad of reasons, that's a tough number to get over. Those markers, 10's hard to get over, 20's hard to get over, 50's hard to get over, 70, 100, 150, 200, like those markers at a certain point, the numbers just jump, right? Then you start getting rated and, people are coming to you from other places and your marketing's taking off and people know who you are, but
it's all snowball. I have where is it? I thought I texted it to somebody. Oh yeah, here it is. 97% of streamers are between 0 to 5 CCV. 1.27 are between 6 and 25. 0.63 of streamers are between 26 and 250. And then obviously it just goes up from there. And it's a very real thing.
Well, and from a ministry standpoint, right? Because it's the Nerd Culture Ministry Underground. It's not only about the numbers. Right? Yeah. Well, you gotta have, in order to be successful, you gotta have these numbers. We've talked about just like removing the affiliate, like just deactivating affiliate from our Twitch account and just going and doing the thing that God wants us to do. But the more people you have watching you, the more opportunity you have to do ministry. And so that's there's a little bit in there. And I love where this conversation went.
Yeah.
It was not where I had thought it was going to go, but I absolutely love that it went there, because a little bit of the business side of things, which I think a lot of churches are missing,
100%.
the growth strategies and stuff like that. And we see this also in content creator space. I work a lot in tabletop stuff with what we do at LTN. I don't see a lot of it in that area either, but people that do think about it and do engage in it, they grow, their business grows.
Yeah.
And ministry side of things, their effectiveness and their reach actually grows as well.
Yeah.
But we got the Holy Spirit come in, and man, I love hearing that. I hear the Holy Spirit like speaking in and through the stuff that you're saying about humility and, going where God's calling you, and all sorts of stuff.
Well,
before we get out of here,
final words on
Rush,
that. Just
okay,
yeah.
hit me.
No,
Hit me.
I think there's just a little bit of a lean in ministry moment here, just like people listening. Like, two people are going to stand before God at the end of their ministry, and these two types of people are both going to be unsuccessful. The person who reached a lot of people, but was not faithful behind the scenes, did not care about the individual, did not have coffee appointments, did not see the one, did not serve the least of these, right? That's David when he counted the people at the censure, okay? He lost his ability to build the temple of God, okay? Boom. But also the person that's going to stand before God and be unfaithful is a person that said, God, look, I got my 2. And God said, I did not give you that talent so you could bury it in the ground. And I really think that some people look at how people have squandered large ministries, Bubba, as an excuse for them to not scale or grow theirs. And it's not about a size, like Bubba said. It's just about stewardship. And stewardship has a multiplication effect in it. The parable of the talents tells us this. In the parable of the talents, the master in the story, the words of Jesus, said to the one who did not multiply, he said, "Depart from me, wicked servant." And I just want to encourage some people, whichever one of those categories you fall under, man, be the person that multiplies what they had, but doesn't get lost in the multiplication.
Dude, I love that. And I think that answers kind of the final question that I would have said. Hey, what would you have told young Rush if you could go back and tell him, one thing that you know now? And I think this entire podcast is one thing that you would like to tell young Rush. Just go back and be like, hey, when you're 10 years old and you're stomping a mud hole in the #1 clan leader in Empire Earth, hey man, things they're gonna look up and they're gonna get better. And here's how. Well, hey Rush, dude, where can we find you online? How can we follow some of the things that you're doing and be a part of your community?
Yeah, so I'm really only active right now on X, Twitter, and Instagram. I'll like my TikTok and my YouTube stuff is kind of in a hiatus. I just re-envisioning some of the stuff and honestly spending a lot of time supporting people behind the scenes and doing creation for other brands. Got some exciting things. I mean, I can say it on here. Like I'm just finalizing a deal with TBN to help them build out their gaming brand, Trinity Broadcast Network. Yeah. So
Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Yeah. So
oh man, let's go.
Yeah. So they own VeggieTales, they own Chosen, and they have a huge mission to not miss the next generation. So I'm working with them to build a gaming ethos and brand. So yeah, that's some exciting stuff. But yeah, on Twitter, Jon W. Rush, where I post a lot of my gaming stuff. I have a lot of friends on there and a lot of relationships on there that don't follow me because I'm a Christian. And that's one of the things that I pride myself in is really building bridges for people. And so you go there, you're like, this guy's a pastor. He doesn't post preaching clips. Well, go to my Instagram, Jon W. Rush. You'll get plenty of Jesus. My Instagram, I've realized, is that the vast majority of people that follow me on Instagram are other pastors. They're students in my ministry, and they're leaders. And so I post extensively about the Bible, about leadership thoughts, digital tactics, and all that stuff on Instagram. So would love to say hi to you guys on either of those platforms.
Dude, and there's a whole nother thing to talk about there, like meeting people where they are on social platforms, having one platform that is for one thing, because that's where those people are, having another platform for another thing, because that's where those people are. I love that split, man. You just freaking nuggets all over the place here. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We're going to get out of here. For myself, Bubba, for Mark, and for our guest, Jon Rush. Hey, man, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Check us out online, ncmcollective.com. We'd love to hang out with you, hear more about you, and get you in maybe our Discord You can find out more about our podcast and the stuff that we do so that we, like Jon said, can better support you in the ministry that you're doing. And as I like to say, if no one else tells you this, just remember it's true. Jesus loves you, nerds.